The Jubilee poll board split over Mariga candidacy. This is a football star. MacDonald Mariga is among 16 aspirants who will be interviewed today for the Jubilee Party ticket to contest the Kibra parliamentary seat. And of course, many are saying that that decision was not unanimous, so they'll be looking on how to resolve that, and also looking at the possibilities of the Jubilee Party in the Kibra parliamentary election. I don't know, Senator Kajang, what do you think? Is it a possibility that a Jubilee candidate can win in Kibra?
Given the fact that ODM had 20 candidates, then somehow brought it down to 11 candidates.
Well, I would say, you know, if you look at the demographics of some of the constituencies in Nairobi, there are constituencies that would be considered to be safe. And it's not a Kenyan innovation. Even in the US, there are some states or there are certain electoral areas that the Democrats or the Republicans know are safe. If you look at Nairobi, a place like Ruaraka, a place like Kibra, and one or two other constituencies have been considered to be safe. However, we're in a situation where the hard lines that were there between political parties in the run-up to the last general election, that hard line has faded, because almost everyone now is talking about the government and supporting the government. And so that might change things a little bit. But I can tell you with a lot of certainty that ODM has an upper hand in Kibra. If we do our nominations properly, if we present a candidate who is acceptable to the people, I believe that ODM shall carry the day. And you see, the situation in Kibra, I've personally been through it. I was elected through a by-election after my late brother passed on. So I'm very sympathetic with the people of Kibra for having to go through this process just 2 years after an election. And I'm hoping that the ODM party is putting in place proper mechanisms to do proper nominations that will lead to a candidate who will, carry on the mantle that Ken Okoth left.
And Miruru, you are the other politician here, because you're party chairman. What are the odds in Kibra? What possibilities would a Jubilee party have in such a constituency? Of course, not losing the point that Langata constituency was won by, excuse me, by a Jubilee legislator in the last election. The fortunes change.
You see, one of the things as a party, we may not comment on the Kibra elections because we have decided not to field a candidate because we are busy with our Punguza Mizigo campaign and we cannot continue preaching water and drinking wine. We are talking about reducing these constituencies. So as a party, we decided we are not going to field any candidate in Kibra. And I think I will not comment on the Kibra by-elections.
So you have already reduced on your side.
May the best win.
May the best win. Okay, what are the odds? I mean, you guys are constitutional experts, but of course you observe.
Yeah, I think... yes, as Senator said, true, there are those constituencies, electoral units that are considered, almost properties. Sometimes in this country, there's that buzzword that's used. This is the property of this party or this political personality. So that history is there, but always challengeable. He made the reference to the US of A, and Kenyans remember the last presidential election where the incumbent President Trump was able to upset and overturn some of the states that were considered safe and strongholds for the Democrats, and he turned them around to be, and won them as a Republican. So fortunes change, circumstances change, and I think in this currency, and especially when we look at the current recent history of Kibra constituency, and when you think of the personality, the sort of legislator and the heritage that the late MP Ken Okoth left for the area. When such a thing happens, when such a strong candidate leaves office, then you always find that very many people, parties feel that they probably have a chance. And that's why I think any party, including Jubilee, may feel that if they field a candidate who is as strong, who probably commands the same and articulates the same attributes, that Ken Okoth did, then the residents of Kibra may not look at the party, but at that candidate and that personality. And I think probably that is a case that may hold, or that's a case that may be tested during these by-elections.
Right. Thomas, you are a lawyer, you also understand the Constitution, but you're also you're passionate about human rights.
Yes.
I take a look at Ken Okoth and you see the things that he's done in Kibra, and one wonders the sort of mantle that the next person has to take in. It's quite heavy given the developmental leadership that Okoth had, the sort of things that he was able to do, such as education, the way he invested in education. But nevertheless, what would you want to see the next person who takes over Okoth's seat to do for the residents of Kibra, given the fact that even simple running water is still an issue for them in 2019? What would you want the next person to do?
Well, the kind of legacy that Ken Okoth built is really a very strong legacy. And looks like the incoming MP must step into those shoes with well awareness that she is stepping into a great man's territory and must do or take over the programs that the late Okoth really had in mind. So I think that the incoming MP for that area must be well aware that he has to up the game. And therefore the parties must feel people who they really must understand that Kibra is a very special area, in the sense that it's the biggest slum in Africa. Remember that. We already know that.
Or rather, the biggest slum is in Kibra Constituency.
Yes, yes. Oh, it's in Kibra. So that in itself is, you see, it's already having some record of itself, that Kibra has one of the biggest slums in Africa.
Is Jubilee aiming too high when they're fielding a candidate, given the fact that Kibra is an ODM stronghold?
I think so, without me wading into political waters. Remember,
no, you're no longer a commissioner.
I'm trying to be a bit neutral here. But I think Jubilee for sure is being a bit ambitious. They should have, now in the handshake thing, they should have really allowed ODM to take their seat, so to speak. So, but you know, competition is allowed. Maybe in Jubilee fielding a candidate, they are trying to make the ODM candidate better. So ODM must get a good candidate, as they have already proposed. But there is no harm in Jubilee trying to win. You know, if Jubilee wins this seat, then it means we are finally moving to serious democracy, where we are no longer looking at party lines and maybe moving into personalities, as my brother here has said. So Jubilee stands a chance if they get a good candidate. Why not?
And Senator, you belong to the party, that is the Orange Party, and you are to have a nomination on Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. Then that was called off almost last minute. What happened? What is the challenge?
Well, there are reasons that were given that were very convincing, that people were still seized of the census matter, and the security that would have been deployed to assist in the exercise was unavailable during that time. And so a fresh date has been set. The nomination shall be done because the election must be held. And I can assure you that it will be done properly. I have seen in the newspaper that our rivals, the Jubilee Party, are opting for boardroom consultations to identify a candidate. We have opted to go the popular route. And this time round, we have requested the support of the IEBC. When Commissioner was there, I know that we didn't come up with a very good framework for IEBC to assist political parties to carry out their nominations. But if you can start using the IEBC to help parties in carrying out nominations, it can help to improve the democratic atmosphere. A place like Kibra, it becomes very difficult to define who is a member of ODM and who is a member of Third Way Alliance. So if you open the nomination exercise, the verification, the infiltration, people coming from other constituencies, people coming from Homa Bay or Kiambu or from Mavoko to come and vote, they can even vote for an unpopular candidate, so that when it comes to the last minute, ODM as an unpopular candidate.
So you have very little time. How do you bring in IEBC?
Well, you said the Third Way is not in this. So
you don't have a party register.
Just keep your peace because you are not part of it. IBC will help us, and the police, and the party machinery to ensure that we have a credible nomination exercise that will give us a candidate who will carry the flag. And finally, we are not afraid of competition from Jubilee. In fact, when Sakaja mentioned during the mass for Ken Okoth that he's going to influence the party not to put up a candidate, it was neither here nor there. We are not scared of competition. But let people face off. Already ANC as a candidate, and ANC is part of that NASA coalition. So
I think I need to.
We are not scared of
the challenge. We need to close on this.
The challenge, Sam, is asking IBC to conduct party primaries. We have had this topic before. The point is, if we allow IBC to carry out party primaries, I'm just commenting because of what is raised, and at the same time conduct the elections, there will be some sort of conflict. The point is, we need to strengthen our political parties to have their own mechanisms of conducting party elections.
But our political parties are not based on ideologies, they're based on individuals. Unlike, for example, mature democracies like in the States, Republican is Republican, Democrat is Democrat, despite the individual. Here in Kenya, our politics are based on individuals.
Yeah, I understand. The point I'm trying to say is allowing IBC to conduct party primaries will bring a challenge, in the sense that the IBC conducting primaries and at the same time conducting the main election, there will be a little bit problem. The point I'm trying to say, strengthening political parties to be able to have capacity to conduct their own primaries.
But
by the way, because we are heading towards 2022, a senator here needs, because I know he's a key member of ODM party, if it remains intact till the elections, they need to strengthen political parties. This is a message we are passing not only to ODM, but all political parties, including my friend here of Third Way. And by the way, they are doing very well to be in the limelight at this level.
I just want us to conclude with this, even as you do that. I recall in the year 2017, the months were April and May, ODM and Jubilee were trying to conduct political primaries, party primaries, and it was chaotic, especially in the Nyanza region, the counties of Migori, Homa Bay, and a bit of Kisumu.
Well, even in central counties. So please don't.
Let me just frame the question. Then you saw the Jubilee primaries. Of course, the round one of the nominations was it just didn't happen. But have we seen any efforts to strengthen that political party discipline and democracy that you talk about ever since until now? Of course, 2022 is just 3 years away.
You know, one of the problems that we have, and the good senator here has actually been able to say that here, that when you go to Kibra, they cannot be able to identify ODM, Jubilee, or their own members when they are doing nominations. By even trying to invite IBC to conduct nominations, when you cannot identify your own members, IBC would be, they will be inviting IBC to come into chaos. Because as a political party, you should register your members and you should have a way of identifying them. So what they are saying is that we don't have capacity even to do any nominations, because if you can't identify your members, you should not actually even do nominations. Because that is inviting chaos. One of the first things before you start talking about, it's like IBC saying, I'll conduct elections without a voter register. So when you're saying I cannot identify my members and I want to do nominations, what you're actually telling the candidates is that there will be no fair nominations. It's as simple as that.
Your final comment.
I would follow the path that Commissioner has, and it's always been my take that involvement of IBC in party primaries, in as much as in the Constitution there is an avenue which sort of allows it, and gives parties the leeway to partner with IBC in certain circumstances. But it's true that chances are their involvement in internal party issues, and especially such a prominent election like this coming up in Kibra, and of a big party like ODM, and with the history that we've had with nominations in ODM, but also other large parties in the country, that it's possible to very much stain the cloth of what IBC is, and considering that it is the one that is going to also manage the
national elections,
substantive election, the by-election. So you can imagine if it murkies its waters during the nomination processes. This may affect the substantive election, not only within ODM circles, but other parties also that may cast aspersions as to the position that IBC plays and should be deemed to be impartial and fair. So I think it's a strong point that parties must have their own very strong and robust systems to undertake such nominations.
On that point, maybe just a final one. We established the political parties fund. It's a constitutional provision, and there's clarity in how that fund should be disbursed and how it should be managed. Parties like ODM have had to go to court to compel Treasury to release the money. And so these are the funds that when the constitution was being set up, the thinking was that these funds would help parties to build capacity to be democratic parties of this century. But that has not been the case. You find a lot of political parties, they get their funding from donations, maybe from well-wishers, from members. You might find that the chairman of Third Way Alliance is contributing significant personal resources into running of the political party. We wanted political parties and serious political parties to be funded from national coffers so that we can build democratic institutions. And finally, I think there's this thing of deficit of trust in this country, that we would not trust the IBC to run a nomination and trust it again to run the substantive election. I think that is wrong. IBC
has shown otherwise.
Yes, but IBC has been running elections. Nowadays, student elections at the universities, any other body that is carrying out elections is subcontracting it to IBC. What we are saying is that we don't want IBC to be involved in the policy decisions of ODM. When it comes to the rules of the game, it is for ODM. IBC only brings the infrastructure, which infrastructure has been sourced by taxpayers' money. IBC has the infrastructure, it has the gadgets, it has the devices. Why should we go and buy debes when those debes are sitting in a go down somewhere at IBC? Why can't we outsource? Why can't we hire those debes? Why, if they have devices that can do identification, why can't they extend that to political parties?
I need us to close on this, and you have the final word.
Senator, you have a point in the sense of hiring of gadgets and debes and all that.
The infrastructural support.
That is just that kind of support. But the point, and I want to agree with the chairman of Third Way here. You see, the register of political parties is the membership of the parties. IBC has no data as to who is the member of ODM, who is the member of Third Way, or any other party. They don't have that. What IBC has is the register of all Kenyans. So they can then differentiate to know which member of the ODM can vote and which one. And that infrastructure is not there. That's why I'm saying the conversation now, going forward, because we're heading to 2022, and these things are bound to rise. We need to address, and I'm happy that some you are raising this issue now. I hope that key political leaders are listening to this conversation, because the point is, going towards 2022, we need to strengthen political parties to be able to have capacity to conduct credible party primaries. That is what the conversation should be.
We need to take a short break, but when we return, we'll be talking about, excuse me once again, that conversation about the referendum. Of course, a lot has been said in the political circles. The leader of the ODM party, that is Raila Odinga, thinks that Punguza Mizigo is not consultative enough and therefore should be shelved, and instead we should wait for the Building Bridges initiative so that we can have an all-inclusive conversation that should yield to a bill that will be taken to Parliament. We'll be looking at all that and what the law says in as far as pursuing referendum process, like what Punguza Mizigo initiative is doing, what can stop it, and what options the movers would have should Parliament frustrate the process. And
of course, if time agrees, we'll take a look at the census and how that exercise was conducted. Were you happy with it, and so forth? That conversation in just a little bit. But remember, 22422, that's our SMS line, at Citizen TV Kenya. The hashtag is Daybreak. See you in a bit.